Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to the Sea Live podcast. My name is Sam, and as always, it wouldn't be a Sea Live podcast if I didn't have my trusted friend and podcast sidekick, Mr. Chris Vance. How you doing, mate?
Hello, mate. How are you today? Been working hard, I heard.
I've been working hard, getting all that money. Can you see what I've got? Look at my new chair.
Oh, we got a new chair.
Have you not noticed it?
Too hard.
Working too
Getting
hard.
paid too much.
They're calling
Getting
this
paid
an
too much.
ergonomical chair, so you'll see me standing up straight now, like this.
Oh, nice. Better than the twitch I had on my shoulder you were talking about last week. What was it? Something you were talking about?
Twitch. We're gonna try and stream to Twitch. I think this is a market that we're missing out on, podcasts and little just chatting segments. So I think I'll look into it. But
Still got that twitch. I've been doing a skip today, so my twitch is quite sore today.
we need to move on quickly and swiftly. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go and follow us on social media. So it's Sea Live UK across all of our social media platforms. We streamlined it a couple of weeks ago. I keep saying it. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, soon to be Twitch. I'm working on that currently at the moment. Chris, you've been busy. You've been shoveling up stuff in your back garden, haven't you?
Well, I've been with Jack today from Up All Night, lead guitarist from Up All Night. We've been socially distanced, shoveling rubbish into a skip. So it's been busy. Two guitarists working hard today. So musicians are doing something right today.
Exactly.
That's the only thing I could say.
Should we get our podcast guest in for this evening?
We should.
We should. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Simon Bradshaw.
Yay! We go back a long way, Simon and I. Many moons ago, Simon was kind of the number one guitar tutor in Liverpool, and then
I'd say specifically South Liverpool, the Egbert region.
yes, and
That's
then,
That's an accolade and a half. That don't diss that. That's
It was fantastic. Mate. I was all about Cressington Park.
and then he moved pastures on, and then a young hip guitar. What are you laughing at? He came in and took the reins on for him, and I'm still there.
That's amazing. I was just saying that because someone was asking me before, and I was like, "Yeah, I've known Chris for years." I was like, "Yeah, he took over when I'd kind of hung up my axe." I mean, do you know what? Not that it's been an interesting 15 years or so since, but I really miss teaching guitar. Actually, now having been a full-time primary school teacher for a number of years, the days of rocking up and doing a few tunes.
There was always every kid is brilliant at what they bring, but there was always like an outstanding child who just was born to play guitar, if you know what I mean. Over the last few years, Louis, who I still work with now, he's just unbelievable. Louis, he's just another level.
Well, I've got a couple of sort of, I guess, success stories. So the drummer in the Wombat, Danny Haggis, he was one of my pupils on the drums, believe it or not. And I don't drum. Yeah, I mean, I'm like a layman. That's overcooking it. I like. It's more fun than it is. It's more nice for me to do than it is for people to hear. I think that's the way to describe my drums. So he's obviously had a lovely career. And there's a guy called Ben Burke who's in Gilmore many years ago, and he's having a really good, successful sort of singer-songwriter career. So, yeah,
because he came back a few times to do a few shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for I've got to mention him. The whole concept of that. If it was Pete Gibbons, wasn't it?
Oh, Pete, what an absolute legend! Yeah,
we lost Pete last year actually, which was very sad. But he was all about the arts, wasn't he?
He was amazing, yeah, and it was a lovely time to be working in schools around that time. And he gave me, I think if he thought you were doing a good job, he gave you complete autonomy to do things the way you wanted to do them. And and you'll know this, Chris. I mean, children in school these days, when they're picking up instruments, it can be quite a challenge to get the numbers, keep the numbers, and keep them, keep it moving round year on year out. And thanks to his help, I mean, I was teaching nearly 2/3 of the school on guitar or drums at a certain point, and that was all because of his encouragement, and his dedication. So yeah, top man.
That's it. And we all are in the teaching game. Sam teaches singing.
Oh man.
Have you had any kids, Sam, that you teach and they just been outstanding, instant success?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know when you walk through the door. I mean, with me, with singing and musical theatre, acting, drama, that sort of thing, they've just got this stance about them when they walk in the room, and it could be a combination of themselves, maybe a little bit about parents as well. There have been occasions of pushy parents and that sort of thing, but majority of them, they're all talented, really talented in their own ways. You'll get students, especially at Lipper, that are essentially maybe more gifted in one than the other, in their own right, and that's fantastic. I mean, the whole premise of Lipper, deep down at its core, is to encourage them to break them out of their shells, to encourage them to go and be themselves, and work on the talents that they have as individuals. And it's very fulfilling, and I guess it's the same for you, you guys, when you teach. Obviously you've had a break as well, Simon, but you said you're a primary school teacher. It's fulfilling in primary as well.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, so yeah, because I moved from, I was obviously doing the music lessons, and then I was in a band in my 20s, which was kind of a bit like, you guys. I was in a band that had a record deal with a local label called Pro Plus, a guy called Jeff Davis, who's a bit of a, well, he's not a bit of a legend.
He's an absolute legend, isn't he?
Yeah. He's one of my absolute best friends in the world, and he is. So I had a band in the sort of in late 90s, early 2000s, and working as a guitar teacher alongside that was amazing. It was the perfect way to kind of keep money ticking over and feel like you're still doing music and you're still contributing like that, but then you can still, trying to live the dream as a young man. And
when you were in tour and stuff, was that with Marlowe?
That's right, yeah. So yeah, I was in a band called Marlowe, which was a band I was in for 7 or 8 years. It was great times. I mean, the loveliest thing about that, I think, looking back, is we got to do a John Peel session, which is probably one of the things that I look back on and feel really honoured to have been part of, to go to Maida Vale and to do that and have the great man himself. I mean, he was always really supportive of what we were doing and everything on Pro Plus as a label. Half Man Half Biscuit are one of his favourite bands, of course. And so that was great. We did all right. We had a nice time. We made a few records. It was great. But then we'd done 3 albums, and we were running a bit out of momentum, and it was hard. It was a band that had between sort of 6 and 9 people in it at any given time, and it just became like a lot. There wasn't any money. We were trying our best, so it faded away. And then I was in my early 30s, and I thought, I should probably behave like a grown up.
Still speak to any of the members of the Marlowe?
So so following from that, so me and a couple of the lads that were in it, we were in we kind of formed a rock band that followed it, and then we ended up, it was one of those it was a drunken joke. The bass player, a guy called Ed Pink, who's very much he was the style guru of the band. Like he was the one, he was full of good ideas, and he was kind of like, I was like, what kind of band should we be in now? Let's do something else. And he just went, like, totally sort of joking, mariachi death metal. And
wow,
I went, well, I kind of like the idea of being in a mariachi band. So we started a kind of a take on a mariachi band. I guess it was more sort of a Tarantino, Scott Walker thing. It wasn't, we didn't have all the hats and all that. And that's what's led to me now, music back being my job again, because it was that band that we ended up on a TV show. So I've worked with them guys from Marlowe for 20 years. And one of them is the drummer in the function band.
Is that Aaron?
Yeah.
Right.
Still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The circle never fades.
No.
But stuff like that, though, if it does go sing, I remember it was the Marlowe. Did it have instruments in as well?
Yeah. So it was like a 3-piece rock band, but we had a brass section and a string section.
That's right. And one of them was one of my tutors in uni. Chloe.
Yeah, Chloe. So Chloe was my partner at the time. So she's incredibly talented musician. I mean, probably the most talented I've worked with in terms of interpreting ideas. And you guys will know this when you know, in a rehearsal room or in any kind of environment, when you're going, well, it's like this, and I want you to go la la la, and there's somebody who's a garage musician essentially. She would translate my ridiculous noises and turn them into 4 or 5 part sections, and incredible how she could put that together. So
was she strings, or was she?
Chloe played flute and saxophone, and
right.
She sang as well. But she was very much the orchestrator.
Right.
Those sounds.
We come across stuff that we do in some of the shows that we do. We always call on Lara, don't we, Sam?
We do. We speak to Lara on a regular basis, don't we? A few ideas floating around at the minute, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. But if you want like string sections and stuff like that, right, Lara, get Lara.
Yeah. And people like that, like, because I can, as working as a producer now, I'm always having to pull these things together. But yeah, there's nothing like people that's what they do. They put string and brass sections together. It's an incredibly complicated thing, but if you get that right on a recording or in a live environment, it's next level stuff. If you're good at it.
See, I remember when we were in uni, and Chloe was obviously taking the lectures and stuff, because she was so classically trained, and a lot of the students were garage trained, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And she always, as my personal view, she always struggled to understand that everything had to be annotated. And I suppose that's the right way to do it, but there was no leniency for someone who had learnt in the bedroom.
Yeah. I think it's certainly in terms of the band. I mean, it might be different in that academic context, but in terms of the band, she was great, and she would kind of let me and the boys go with that, and would actually really, I think I'd like to think, really enjoyed our kind of essentially teenage boy in a bedroom with a tennis racket thing, while she got on with making it sound really beautiful. So yeah, but I think you're right, and you guys don't know this, being in bands, that's why I love being in bands. It is that clash of backgrounds and that almost, everyone coming at things slightly differently that makes the best music. I mean, even now, so currently I work as a producer, so I work with lots of artists who kind of have a sketch of a song and want a producer to work on it and make it into, something that sounds, they'll give you a reference of what they want it to sound like. And I'm always like, let's spend some time, because obviously at the moment everything's remote, so they're sending me ideas and things for me to work on. But in the context of how I want to do things, I just say to them, like, I'm a band guy, like I'm somebody who's been in a band, and like, let's at least have a Zoom and have a chat and tell me about what you like, and tell me about the music you're into, and tell me about what's the things that inspire. I want it even in the context of artist and producer. It needs to be as collaborative as you can make it, right? Yeah. Because it's people coming together that makes the amazing stuff.
I agree with you on that, and I've always said to Sam, when we look at artists or we scout, we meet them direct.
Always try.
You've got to meet these people. You've got to meet them, haven't you, Sam?
Yeah.
Because you've got to see what they're like. It's very easy to say things on screen and hide behind screens, but you've got to see the personality of that person. And I don't think nowadays enough younger artists are doing that.
Yeah, I think well, it depends on the background, doesn't it, as well? And because you think of this sort of X Factor culture of the last 15 to 20 years, when it almost dragged into being, with pop stars coming from that background, like a personality story. Like, if you didn't get the high strings at the beginning and the bit that made you nearly cry, then they weren't getting through to the next round, and that was kind of the background with that. These days, the almost the autonomy of being a musician, the fact that you can make and release records and get them on Spotify and iTunes has opened up the field for anyone to make and release records if they, you know, to even whatever the quality may be. So you're getting a mix now of people who like are trying to following those pop star rules, and exactly like you're saying, Chris, you know, they're doing things by the book, and they've seen how to do it play by play from all their idols. And then there's people who are coming at pop music and writing from really odd perspectives to open this idea for everyone. Well, hang on a minute, I can give this a go because I can put GarageBand on my computer and I can send it to a producer on a website, and they'll make me a record that sounds pretty close to what's out there at the moment, and I can go on, you know, CD Baby or whatever it might be, upload me stuff, and I'm a pop star. So there's a real mixed bag out there, you know, at the moment.
It's crazy. I mean, not only sort of the Instagram, but TikTok has literally blown up, obviously over lockdown, but the amount of artists that are posting their songs as a soundbite for people to use, like overnight, just becoming famous just because of TikTok alone, or that, you know, a viral dance craze, and they obviously use that traction of, you know, followers and you know, people interactions to then, you know, pursue their career in whatever they want to do. You know, this influence style of, you know, person is becoming more you know, prominent within sort of social media. You know, if you don't have 10 million followers, who are you? Do you know what I mean? If you haven't got a blue tick, who are you? Which is crazy to think that we've actually come to that sort of, you know, state of mind, you know, over social media. So I wanted your take on it, Simon. You know, blue ticks, followers, likes. It's about producing content that, one, that you actually like to do, and two, you know, content that means something to you. I don't know if you agree, disagree.
I just my feeling on the whole thing is like what your motivation might be, really. You know, do you want to be in the music business, or do you want to write songs because you want to be a pop star, or do you want to do it because you love music and you want to share it, but that you're doing it for the creative process rather than necessarily what you might get out the other side of it? And of course there's all kinds of on the spectrum of that. You know, it can be anywhere in between. I mean, I was always somebody that, you know, loved writing songs. I just happened to be in a band that did them, if you see what I mean. And now that, you know, I have I never really had any great, like, you know, desire to be, even though I was a frontman and a singer in a band, and I never really perceived myself like that. I was just a bloke who wrote songs, and I was the only one who was willing to sing them. You know, that was, and these days, yeah, I mean, because aspirationally speaking, you know, like I say, you can get anything you want on Spotify, and you can work those angles, but, you know, fundamentally, unless you've got 1 million listens on Spotify, and even then, I'd say, you know, nobody with any great influence in the world of the music business is going to look at you. It's a crazy amount of numbers that, you know, you need to do, and even financially speaking, you know, what a Spotify player is 0.005 pence or something crazy like that between all the songwriters. You know, so, you know, financially, I mean, there's obviously a lot of artists who spoke out about Spotify and how it works, and so I think it's all about why you do it. And I think if you do it because you love doing it, then success is defined in a different way. You know, success is defined by the creation of the thing itself. And if people like it, that's lovely too. You know, and it doesn't matter whether you've got blue ticks or. And you know, it's like, I was going to reference MySpace then. That's how old I am.
Wow. Hey, it's coming back apparently. I seen something about MySpace coming back, and Bebo. Remember Bebo?
Oh yeah. Never went away from me. I've probably still got a MySpace page if I look for it now. But I was like me looking for Skype this morning.
Well, MySpace was quite ahead of its time, really, I think.
So MySpace, I mean, that was the platform that broke the Arctic Monkeys, of course. So that was like famously, they were the band that blew up on MySpace and then became what they became. So yeah, I mean, the same thing was then. It was like, if you didn't have, were they called followers then? I don't even know. If you didn't have friends, 20 million spaces, it's called spaces.
Well, exactly. It's good job Sam's got a blue tick. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe not. I mean, I contributed to the blue tick, let's just say. It was just funny when you were mentioning about X Factor. Then me and the choir had a little stint on the X Factor. Made it through to live shows with Robbie Williams as our mentor, which was brilliant. Really, really cool. So we went to LA and did that sort of thing, and we're learning now sort of how hard it is to just get 20,000 followers. Never mind a million. So hopefully within the next 6 months, we went viral on TikTok, whatever that means. Yeah, so we had a TikTok. We did that Olivia, I think it's Olivia Rodriguez's song, the driver's license. That was quite the new one that was on TikTok, and it went, as Chris would say, goes feral. It went feral on
Feral.
It always does. And we built it up, or the guys built it up, to be this, pristine. We're all standing there, real, all proper, and then we just go dead crazy, and it was great, and it went viral. I think there's over 2 million people that have seen it, and over, I think, 500,000 people have liked it. So it's phenomenal, and just the videos after have picked up as well. So you only need that one video. So it's.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. Did you enjoy the experience? I'm really interested in, like, because I did it, like I said, I did the TV show, which was nowhere near as high profile, but I found the whole experience really really amazing, and like really addictive. And when it finished, I felt like, and I was 40. I wasn't I wasn't a young thing. I look at something, look back in the day, you say again, different, like, this is one for the kids, your Gareth Gates or whatever it might be. But even people who were getting to the finals and were really popular, and then their careers maybe didn't go in the way that they hoped, and how hard that must have been, because suddenly you are on everyone's lips wherever you go, and then you go this way. And even for me, and like I said, the show was nowhere near that high profile, but when we got knocked out and it finished filming, I was really down about it. I found it really hard to pick myself back up and move on. How was it for you, Sam? Did you find the experience? Did you enjoy it as an experience?
The experience was unbelievable. I mean, just the choir itself was formed because we wanted to do a flash mob or some form of like performance for Steph, who runs the choir, her friend and wife. It was their 10-year anniversary, and within the space of 6 months she got MS and was wheelchair bound. So and it was their 10-year anniversary. They were going to go to the Hilton, have tea and scones, and then they'd come round to us singing Bruno Mars's The Way You Are, Just the Way You Are. And it was amazing. And also that went viral. Piers Morgan, Lil Wayne retweeted it, which is crazy to think I can say Lil Wayne and Piers Morgan in the same sentence, never mind them retweeting it. But yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, that in itself was a bit, crazy, because we were getting ITV, BBC showing it on local news, on the radio, even national news. It made, I think it was Channel 4 and Channel 5. They were showing that. And then we were approached to be on X Factor. So in the space of about, I think it was about 8 months from that video going viral to then us being approached to go on the show. And it was around the time when The Greatest Showman had just come out. So obviously Hugh Jackman and the success of that show, they were actively looking for a choir to be on the show. And I remember there were 2 choirs at the audition, us, the Lamacq choir, and a chamber choir. And I think the sort of bio that they were looking was for a kind of hip choir, like a current choir, rather than a traditional stand there and sing church arias. So we had that edge because at the time we were all under 22, 23, so we were all fresh faced, just come out of university. Me especially, just come out of university, and I was thinking, I've got this big wide world of sort of auditions and knockbacks that I've obviously trained for to prepare myself for, and there I am in probably one of my first auditions in front of Simon Cowell, Louis Tomlinson from One Direction, Ada Williams and Robbie Williams, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, this is an opportunity that I can't sort of let go. So it happened, and from then it's a bit of a blur, because from there obviously there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, which probably everyone's aware about, of, you know, whoever wins has got the most followers, or, you know, that sort of thing, or brought in the show to bring the most sort of traction, because at the end of the day, it's a TV show. You know, for the sake of saying it's a talent show, it's more of a TV show than a talent show, because at the end of the day, all they're worried about is how many viewers are watching it and can they get recommissioned for next year. So that's the fickle side of it. On the sort of performance, so my side, it was one of, if not the best experiences of my life, being able to go to LA for, I think it was about 7 or 8 days, and literally going into Robbie Williams's mansion and just chilling, and, you know, having a barbecue, going sightseeing the Hollywood sign. It was one of the best experiences of my life, and looking back, there was so much more that I could have done, but obviously you're here, there, and every year in rehearsals, you're picking songs, rehearsing songs, and yeah, we got knocked out in the second week, so it was a double elimination every week. So I think there were 16 acts in the final, so there were only 8 weeks. Well, less than 8 weeks. I think it was like 6 or 7 weeks. I think the week 7 was the final, and it was a shock. People were shocked that we got kicked out. I mean, I'm not a better man usually, but I checked before we were about to go on stage what our odds were to get through, and we were near the top, like odds on, like evens, like there's no point in putting a bet on that, you know, they're gonna go through, sort of thing. You know, we'd done a song, we did Proud Mary, Tina Turner, and there's a moment where we are the traditional choir. We're on like plimps. We're all, you know, socially distanced, ahead of its time. All in, it's crazy. All in our black robes, and essentially on that left a good job. We'd all rip off these sort of black robes, and we're all in these gold sequin outfits, and it got so much attention. Like, again, loads of views on YouTube, Instagram, that sort of thing. And I think it was just one of those moments where, when we were in the bottom two, and Brendan, the guy who we were up against, who is an unbelievable artist, and a voice on him that is just unbelievable, we kind of knew, not that it was the end, because we still had a chance to go through, but we kind of thought, ooh, this is going to be difficult. But I've kind of answered everything in one question there, but it was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
I mean, I find it sounds like such an amazing. I'm really fascinated by it, because, yeah, like I say, my experience was nowhere near that. You know, I certainly didn't go to LA, but just the idea that in itself is worth a great deal, isn't it? It's not, because I think a lot of people are always like, well, what did they do afterwards, or like, oh, they weren't successful because they didn't do X, Y, and Z afterwards. But actually, to get there and to live through being part of a TV show, and just working with those different people, and just having every day waking up knowing you're part of something like that is incredibly powerful and really inspiring. And because it was the thing that led to me, because I said before, I was, you know, I'd kind of moved away from doing music as a priority, and I was doing it for fun. But once I'd done the TV show, I was straight back into it. It really made me go, oh yeah, I love this. And you know, just everything about it, and not necessarily, you know, being on the telly, but just the writing and the thinking about it, and it being a big part of my life again. And at the time I had a 2-year-old, so I'm sure you can empathize with this, Chris, but like trying to find to work in a studio on your own stuff when you've got a 2-year-old was yeah, like it was ninja. Writing songs at playtimes and 3 a.m, sat downstairs house or whatever. But yeah, I found it a really inspiring experience, and I'm glad it was really good for you, because you end up hearing quite a lot of negative stories, I guess, on the back of the TV shows and things like that. And it wasn't like that for me at all.
No, I mean, you're gonna get your critics regardless, just because you were on the X Factor. You know, you're not meant to be successful because you're on a talent show. It's easy. You've got a sob story, and the only sob story that we had is that we're a choir. Like, that was it. Like, obviously we've got certain members that were from, you know, not privileged background. You know, everyone there, you know, deserved to be there. The circumstances that people are in. But going on to your point about, you know, success after it, you've got success at the moment with just a little bit of success. Tell us about your ventures with SHINee.
Yeah, it's been a really weird week.
Because where does this come from? I mean, obviously you've produced this record that's now 60 countries, #1.
Yeah, on across the world. Yeah, it's been a strange, honestly. So like, it all blew up last. It came out last Monday, and obviously I'm aware of, as most 45-year-old men are, I'm really aware of K-pop and its place in the world.
You do look like a guy who likes his K-pop.
I do. I'm very much the target market for most K-pop fans. No, I mean, obviously I'm aware, and certainly in producer circles, everyone talks about it because it's obviously a very lucrative way to work. And actually, the songwriting and production is, I mean, the levels are amazing. It really is an amazing genre of music. But so yeah, it came out last Monday, and I obviously, was pleased, but I did not understand what was going to happen with it. I had no idea that day. It was really weird because I was self-isolating in my flat, couldn't go out anywhere. My phone was going mad, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're #1 across the world," and I was like, "I'm stuck in a flat. I can't go, and I should be on a yacht with Puff Daddy, right?"
And Lil Wayne, yeah,
and Lil Wayne, and his mate Piers Morgan. So,
well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been strange. So no, it was a song. I worked with some great people, great management people, some other great producers. There's a girl called Emma Stakes who's worked on X Factor as well. Actually, Sam, she was one of the vocal coaches for many years down there. And she put me in a room with some amazing producers and an amazing singer, a guy called Rhys Anderton. And we wrote this song, and it was actually designed for an indie band, a signed indie band who turned it down.
Wow.
Which now has worked out pretty well.
They look a bit silly, don't they? They look very silly now.
Yeah, I wonder how much they're bothered by it. Yeah, but no, it's worked out okay for me. And yeah, so for me, for the last 18 months, I've just had little bits. It was going to one particular K-pop because obviously there's a company called SM Entertainment, which are totally ubiquitous out there. They work with most of the big acts, and it was getting passed from act to boy band, and you start to think it might not happen. And then the end of last year, someone said it was happening, and then I didn't really hear anything else until I was literally Googling the track listing for the new SHINee album every day for a week, and there it was. Wow. So it's been interesting.
Isn't the album?
It is. It's the very much the token ballad. It's when they all stand up from their stools, Westlife style.
Key change. Yeah.
Key change. There isn't a key change. Yeah. So it's. I mean, first of all, if anyone loves pop music, check out the album. It's so good that if you love pop music, every track is I believe the young people say a banger. Every track is an absolute banger. And
see, I'm a little bit younger, and I would say, not to say that I'm in with the kids, right? A bop. I've heard a bop.
Every single one's
it's just a bop, isn't it?
We're gonna call them bangers.
I think that, but banger, yeah. I say banger. I say banger.
So yeah, I mean, and like albums these days as well, it's changed so much. It's a 30-minute album, so there's no messing around. There's no filler. There's 9 tracks on this album, and the one I'm involved with is the last track, and it's the depressing, sad one.
But
it's crazy.
You've got to be able to write happy songs, sad songs. I was watching that documentary about the Bee Gees on Saturday night. The How to Mend a Broken Heart, I think it's called. Just songwriting for that, it's worth a watch alone.
It's masterclass in it. Those guys.
Those guys are just a masterclass of song. They can do a ballad. They can do a happy song. They can do a sad song. You've got to be versatile enough, especially if you're writing for so many people.
Yeah. I mean, as a producer, my area is usually, I work with some pop artists, but it's usually rock stuff. I'm that guy. I'm a band guy. So if I'd been asked to write a K-pop song, if I thought it was for a K-pop artist, I probably would have found it really difficult. But because I was writing for an indie band, and then, you know, the music industry's weird networks, it's gone round in circles until it ended up in Korea.
I just find it amazing. It's just ended up on the desk in Korea, and they're like, indie for K-pop. Yeah, this'll work.
There's no explanation for it, and the song itself, it doesn't, you know, it's not it's not a boys' own ballad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's it's distinct on the album, which I think means it's got a good chance of being a single, which would be amazing. And yeah, for me as a writer producer who's, you know, I've worked in the indie fringes all of my career. It's not like I've gone, I've had there's been a minor hit, and then, you know, I've done a bit more. It's like I've done pretty much nothing, is number one in 60 countries. That's why I'm waiting for me yacht, because that's what I've been led to believe happens.
Well, I don't know where you'll park it in that flat, but
yeah, I've got a small we'll stick it by your skip, mate. And it
What's been the reaction from your family? You know, obviously, because, you know, this is an unbelievable achievement for you personally, but what's people and what are family members saying about it?
So, first person I told was my daughter, who's 6.
But that was a funny conversation.
I was like, Daddy's had a number 1 record, and she was like, "Oh yeah, can I get a fish?" And I was like, "Yeah,
we'll get you a full tank."
There you go.
So that went well. That felt good after that. Obviously, it was really good. My family and I, we get on really well and everything. But my relationship with my brothers in terms of my music is they've always, well, I've got 2 brothers and they're both quite different. But I think they've always just been a bit like, can you not have a proper job? Like,
I think that's the same story for every single musician, though. Like I love my granddad, love me nana, grew up with them, but they always go, "When are you going to get a job, Sam? When are you going to get some money behind you? When are you going to?" And I go, "I'm doing what I love. I'm getting money from what I love. That's the most important thing. Getting money from doing music." And to be fair, you know, I'm probably doing a discredit to them. You know, those are the ones that took me to music lessons, to drama lessons, to everything. So, you know,
no, where that's from, though, Sam. That just comes from, like, it's just from, like, concern, isn't it? And it's like they don't understand. And to be honest, anyone who's making a living out of being a musician in any format is winning, as far as I'm concerned. My goodness me, that's success in itself. But interestingly, so I didn't tell them. Because I didn't, you know, it just felt, I don't really know, like, what to say. Oh, by the way, I'm on a number 1 album in 60 countries. Seemed like a weird text. So,
just in the family WhatsApp group, just gonna, you know.
Family WhatsApp, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you've got a rash on your toes, you know.
We've got grease,
so,
you know.
Yeah. But then, really lovely, my brother obviously found out, the one who'd be the most to get a proper job, he obviously found out because he was on Facebook or whatever, and then he sent me a really, really lovely message, actually, about it, and referencing how pleased, because my mum and dad are no longer with us, and my mum certainly was vociferous in her support. Yeah. Every gig, she used to work the door at most of the gigs, and she'd just hassle people into buying CDs and be amazing. And when I did that TV show I mentioned earlier, it was kind of it was about people who, you know, should know better and they're still in bands even when they're my age. And so, and at that time, and what we did for many years is we used to rehearse in my mum's bedroom. This genuinely, there was up to my, you know, mid-40s. And that's why we got, and you're saying about having a story that gets you on a TV show. That's the only reason we got on that show. Because when the producer spoke to me, I said, "Oh, you know, we do this, but we, you know," and they said, "Can we come and see a rehearsal?" And I was like, "Well, we rehearsed in my mum's bedroom." And they
they love that, don't they? They absolutely love that.
Oh, they love. So she was so when it was broadcast, my mum was in it all the time, basically. So she is with like Rod Gilbert and flirting with Peter Hook, you know, all that brilliant mum stuff. and then she came to the live show. She was in it more than me. And afterwards, if anyone, very rarely did, but if anyone recognised me from the show, there was never not a single comment was like, "Oh, your band was good," or "You did this." It was just like, "Isn't your mum brilliant?"
Oh no.
So it was nice to receive off my brother a message that said that he thought my mum would be really pleased.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh, that's good. But the songwriting side of you has taken on potentially a new TV show, but we won't give too much away. But we will encourage it when it happens.
Absolutely.
Do you find that when you're writing songs now, they turn up in these mad places? Do you ever think, I've done quite well for myself here?
Yeah. I think, and I guess this might be your experiences as well, and certainly Sam, of being in the TV show. But when things are going well and you're doing stuff, I found it, certainly in my 20s, that I spent way too much time worrying about what was coming next and not enjoying what I was doing at that very moment. And like, so when things were going well, when I was a younger man, I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. Like, for example, the John Peel session, although I was absolutely, one of the greatest days of my life, the back of my mind was like, well, we've got to shoot a video, and we've got to do this, and we've got to get a tour, and we've got to get a booking agent, or whatever it might be. And I should have just been really going, oh my God, I'm in Maida Vale, and it's, this kind of thing. So, and I think, that's definitely something that at the moment, I'm not really thinking about much other than, I'm really grateful that I can kind of make a living out of this. That was my only ambition was to find a way to make a living out of being a songwriter. So it's strange when it pops up in different contexts, and I've had some weird, slightly out of body experiences hearing people singing songs I've written. But no, I'm just in my later years, I'm just trying to enjoy it all.
See, that's the thing now, Sam. We had Paul McCartney tribute on last week, and we were talking about when you go into Lipper and Paul McCartney critiques your songs. You actually critiqued my song in Hope Uni. You did.
Me?
Yeah, you did critique my song. I should have listened a bit more to you, because he's now got a #1 hit around the world.
Not at all. Wow. It was great.
You said it was shit. I don't think you said that. But I should have listened a bit more.
I'd never say that. I'd be constructive.
I should have listened more, because you're now a megastar around 60 countries.
Listen, it's luck. It's pure luck. Honestly, it was like I happened to be in a room with some very, very talented people for a particular day. I've had this conversation about, a few people said, "Oh, which bit of the song did you write?" And I'm like, well, I did this bit and I did this bit. But like, essentially I was just lucky to be in a room with some, incredible producers and incredible songwriters, and I chipped in, right? That's how that worked. And then a mate of mine reminded me, he said to me, "Don't let anyone tell you that you don't deserve this, because it took you 20 years to get in that room." And that is absolutely the point. It's like, well, that is the song that is currently, certainly the high point of my career. But yeah, it wasn't that day. It took me 20 years to meet the people that led to me doing the songs, that led to me meeting the people, that led to me doing the songs that got me in that room. So yeah, nothing happens overnight.
Yeah, you work hard for these things. Our friend Sam, Meg's doing well on The Voice at the moment. She's worked really.
We need to support Meg. Meg Birch is doing absolutely fantastic on The Voice. The current series at the moment, she's through to the semi-finals, so we need to support Meg. We had Meg on, I think it was week 6, and she did a couple of songs for us, so we had the pleasure to interview her and talk about her career today. But I think she might be worth bringing on again for another interview after that sort of experience on The Voice as well, because that's another reality singing show that is probably broke the mold for that reality and is focused more on the singing side of it. And I think that's what people want now. People want to be entertained, not in the classic, are they good? Are they bad? Oh, this one's bad. definitely bad as they walk in. You know, it's a different format, which I enjoyed. I enjoy, watching The Voice.
Oh, I love The Voice. I don't know if this is good or not, but and it's a different format, but I'm obsessed with The Masked Singer.
Seriously though,
it's pretty much the greatest TV show that's ever been made.
It's the biggest load of shite as well at the same time.
Yeah. Like, everything about this should put me right off. And I'm like, who is it? Who is it? Oh no,
I was constantly checking Twitter just to see who it is. Badger. Badger for me. When they went on Twitter, it was Ben Shepherd, whatever his name was, on Good Morning Britain. They were touting him to be what is now. I think it was Neo, wasn't it? Neo was the Badger. I mean, to be fair, that lineup this year was incredible considering.
Oh, it's nuts! And the year before, I mean, where else are you ever going to see Teddy Sheringham singing in a costume? You know what I mean? That for me is television. That is next level stuff. So yeah, and my daughter loves it as well. She really she loves The Masked Singer and is genuinely devastated when her favourites go out and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think there's room in there there's always room for talent shows, always room for singing shows, and I don't think there's any greater authenticity in however you develop your career. Whether you're somebody who's busked for 10 years and you get a break, or whether you've been on X Factor, or whether your dad works at Sony. You know what I mean? It's all taking opportunities when they come around, and none of those things necessarily makes you a great artist until you get the opportunity and you get the chance to show what you can do. There's no bad way to approach this. You know what I mean? Because I think there was periods where people would maybe seek that authenticity. It goes right back to like Oasis and Blair, right? Like that question of like, oh, they're art school Southerners and we're the real deal Mancunians, right? And this is and that's the Stones and the Beatles, right? Yeah. Same. So yeah, there's always this notion of authenticity and what's the right way. Doesn't matter, does it? Doesn't matter.
No, absolutely. But the thing with those talent shows, though, do you find that they've got to change them to keep the audiences, or do you think there will be a point where they'll just go, right, that's it?
Now. We're at the point now. It's saturated. Like, we're at a point now where Simon Cowell easily could have recommissioned the show after, I think it was something at the highest point. I think it was 8 million. We were the last year, the actual proper last year to be on the X Factor, because the year after, in 2019, 18, whatever it was, I can't remember. They did the celebrity version, which again, is sort of stretching it out a little bit too much now. Vinnie Jones, I know, looks like an incredible man, and went through a very incredible time, obviously, with the passing of his wife, and went through absolute trauma with that. But that's a story in itself, and that sells people the engagement to come in and watch the show. But yeah, we're getting to a point now where it's saturated. You could probably make it far easier through TikTok, like we mentioned before, than probably going on the X Factor, because more people are on TikTok than they are watching the X Factor on a Saturday night, which is crazy to think. If something goes viral, I think the top video on TikTok is something ridiculous, like 12 million just views alone. So, and however many times it gets shared on top of that, it's endless. So, I don't know. What's your take on it?
Well, I mean, like, again, back to like pathways, isn't it? And see, I'm going back to MySpace after this. I'm doing that again. I totally get it with see, I think you're right about it being X Factor being saturated, but all that'll happen is it'll go away for a little bit and it'll come back repackaged in another format. I mean, entertainment, everything's pretty cyclical, and they'll find a way to bring something like that back. But and The Voice has been an interesting one, because again, I think The Voice trades on its authenticity. The Voice trades on the fact that it's not about what you look like; it's about what you sound like. That's why it's considered the superior talent contest, or like a more authentic talent contest. So there's these notions of authenticity pervade the music business for many years, and the idea that you know, the fact that you're hearing stories about these artists and you get these backgrounds, you know, the traditional, what we were saying before about X Factor or what have you. I don't think that's that's not a new thing either. We've always wanted to know about our idols. You know, we've always wanted more information, and whether that be through, back in the day, through fan clubs and writing letters to them, and what you'd read in newspapers, or you'd get, you know, in Enemy, or you'd get in Kerrang, or whatever it might be. Now it's just transferred to then, you know, on TV, where you get these neat packages telling you all about the people that you admire. And then now, well, you can just DM them and see what happens.
Crazy. I just can't fathom the idea of being able to go on Instagram and just tweet Ariana Grande casually. You know, Chris, who would be the one person you would tweet and or DM? Who's the one person on Twitter at the moment?
Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney. Why? Obviously, we all know why, but go on.
It's just a legend, isn't he? And he's a songwriting genius. Although I might do Paddy Gibb, because after seeing that show the other night, just a songwriting.
Go on, Simon. Same question.
I mean, in all seriousness, it would be Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age, who.
Oh yeah,
very nice.
You know, rock god idol, and I'm very proud to say that my daughter is also obsessed with Queens of the Stone Age at the age of 6. It's very much her. Yeah, she's like, that's her favorite band. She's like Queens of the Stone Age, Soundgarden, and Motorhead. So yeah, I'm doing my job. There.
Bit heavy for a 6-year-old.
Yes, she's into metal. She's gone that way. But in terms of popular culture and people, I guess, you know, who are like the zeitgeist, I find Taylor Swift really fascinating,
especially recently with all the stuff that's come out about her.
Yeah,
completely. And but as a songwriter, you know, it's really interesting, the process that she goes through, and the documentaries, the couple of documentaries that are on Netflix. There's one on Netflix and one on Disney, which was about folklore when she released that this year. But I think she's got really interesting perspective on the music business because of coming through as a child into the country music scene, then becoming this absolute bona fide 100% pop star, and now diversifying into what feels almost like a different canon. You know, lyrically it's not Bruce Springsteen, but it's Springsteen-esque, you know, in terms of the. And I find that really interesting, and I feel like she's the kind of person who might get back to you if you message her on. I've written a song for your pop band. Do you want one?
Yeah, go on.
I mean, we always say as well, obviously, we've been doing this agency and this podcast for nearly a year now, which is crazy to think we've been doing it for a year. We started it as a lockdown project. We've had, you know, amazing guests to come, and I'm going to plug, because why not? It's my podcast. Make sure that you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, because within the next couple of weeks, See Live podcast will be turning 1. So we're turning 1. So we've done 52 podcasts, and we want you to join us for a special podcast. I'm not going to announce anything yet, but there is a pre-recorded podcast that we did a couple of weeks ago that, frankly, is just unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It was unreal.
Actually,
it was an unreal experience. It was an unreal experience, and it was the first time I've ever done a podcast, and I've been proper nervous.
So please make sure that you're following us all on our social medias. If you see the like button, give it a like. If you see the comment button, comment, and of course share with all your friends, family, and get the word out about See Live podcast turning 1. But we always try to, you know, speak to as many people as possible. So if you are interested in joining the agency, as well as want to appear on the podcast as well, please do DM me, because if you don't do it, it might not happen. And that's the point that
Taylor Swift's going to DM me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We always say that, Chris, if you don't do it, it might not happen, and unless you do it, it won't happen. So we're gonna make our efforts now, because it is coming to the end of this podcast. Simon, where would be the best place for the people at home to follow you, to find out any information, any upcoming news, social medias, etc.?
Yeah, I'm WeatheredMan on everything. That's like weathered, like you know. I mean, you've seen me, right? I'm like a man with a 6-year-old. WeatheredMan on Instagram and Facebook and all those things.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again, Simon, for taking the time to speak to us. I feel like we could have gone on and on and on and talk and talk.
Birthday,
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday! That's amazing. You like, I'm honestly, it's so brilliant what you've been doing. It's yeah, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Chris. Another edition of the Sea Live podcast over. Thank you very much.
And we'll see you next week, mate.
We'll see you next week. In the meantime, folks, stay safe out there. We'll see you next week for another edition of the Sea Live podcast. You're there. Bye bye now.